The Marvel Universe is home to plenty of square-jawed, muscle-bound paragons of truth, justice, and the American way, but it also houses a number of damaged, deeply disturbed, and downright deviant characters as well. Case in point, the Punisher, Marvel's resident man who lives in a van down by the river. Okay, maybe not the river, but the Punisher is a vicious vigilante with a take-no-prisoners approach to fighting crime. Now, the trigger-happy anti-hero is coming to Daredevil Season 2, where he'll be played by the biggest badass on The Walking Dead. No, I mean, yeah, but I'm talking about Shane, aka John Bernthal. But many people have been asking me, he's playing who? Well, today on the Dan Cave, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Punisher. It should come as no surprise that the Punisher first made his debut as a villain. Created by Jerry Conway, John Romita Sr., Ross Andru, and Stan Lee, the Punisher first appeared in 1974 as The Amazing Spider-Man number 129. He was deeply influenced by Don Pendleton's Mac Bolan character, the star of the Executioner novels. In his debut, Punisher was hired by the Jackal as an assassin to take out Spider-Man for the seeming murder of Norman Osborn. However, when Punisher realized he was being tricked, he did what he does best. Oh, wait, no, never mind. He didn't murder him, but he did swear revenge. He swore it so hard. Before he was ever the Punisher, though, he was a man named Frank Castle, a former Catholic priest in training who abandoned his studies due to his inability to forgive those who commit evil acts. Instead, he enlisted in the Marines, shipping off to fight in the Vietnam War, where he became a decorated war hero and an expert in reconnaissance and demolition. He returned to the US, married a woman named Maria, and had 2 children together. You know, living the American dream. However, his bliss was short-lived. After he and his family accidentally witnessed a gangland execution in New York City's Central Park, the Costa crime family gunned them down in cold blood, wiping out all witnesses. All but one, because Frank Castle survived. He went to the police with the identities of the shooters, but they were unable to help him because they were in the mob's pocket. When mobsters blew up his house as he was about to walk into it, though, that was the last straw. Racked with unknowable grief and stymied by a corrupt justice system, Castle dropped off the grid, taking matters into his own hands. He decided that the only punishment that criminals deserved was utter and total annihilation. Donning black Kevlar body armor emblazoned with a giant white skull and armed to the teeth, he became the Punisher. The Punisher, dedicating his life to hitting the proverbial delete key on human garbage one hot lead slug at a time. And yep, you guessed it, his family's killers were the first scumbags he took out, because revenge is a dish best served riddled with bullets. Over the course of his crime-fighting career, the Punisher has employed some less than conventional methods, including torture, kidnapping, extortion, and of course, murder. Just how deadly is he? Well, in 1995, he starred in a comic called The Punisher Kills the Marvel Universe. And he did exactly that. In spite of his ever-climbing body count, the Punisher abides by a strict code of ethics, protecting the innocent at all costs and leaving bad guys in a crumpled, bloody heap. And speaking of bad guys, the Punisher has battled pretty much every criminal organization under the sun, including the Mafia, the Yakuza, Chinese Triads, the Aryan Brotherhood, Jamaican Yardis, biker gangs, the Irish mob, drug cartels, Russian mafia, corrupt cops, and way more. He's even crossed paths with heroes like Spider-Man and Daredevil, the latter of which we'll see play out in Season 2 of Marvel's Netflix series. Worst of all, though, is his arch nemesis, Jigsaw. Previously a famously good-looking mob enforcer named The Butte, Jigsaw earned his new name after Frank Castle threw him headfirst through a pane of glass, ripping his face to shreds in the process. Now, fortunately, surgeons stitched his face back together. Unfortunately, it looked like a grotesque puzzle, and voila, a villain named Jigsaw was born. Over the years, he would try to kill Punisher many times, and always failed. However, not even death can stop Frank Castle. When he was dismembered and decapitated by Dakin during Dark Reign, he came back as a weird steampunky Frankenstein beast named Frankencastle, who kicked ass and took names from beyond the grave. Of course, Punisher got better, maybe took some emergency or something. I don't know, the continuity's unclear. Thanks, Marvel. But now he lives on to take out corrupt cops, conniving crooks, and all manner of gruesome gangsters. But tell me, what are your favorite Punisher stories? Personally, I recommend Born or Punisher Year 1. Let me know in the comments below, and while you're there, give me an unforgivable thumbs up. I'll kill you. That's all for today's show. Be sure to join me next time when we talk about the story of 4 terrible college-age nightmare beasts and their varying accounts of scaring a child to death in Rasho Monsters University. Until next time, keep on digging.